Welcome back to the Communication Mastery Podcast with me, Mark Burlinson. This is where we unleash the power of understanding to build bridges and not boxes, because we understand that communication is the foundation for teamwork. Good communication is what makes teamwork fruitful and what makes businesses succeed. And today I've got a real gem of an episode for you because I want to talk about the 4 foundations of communication mastery. These come right out of the body of knowledge of the Communication IQ Life Languages profile that I use with most of my clients. And I think you're going to find this really helpful today. So the first foundation for communication mastery is that whatever your communication style, whatever your preferred language, first language for communication would be, all of us have a filter question. It's kind of like a pair of colored glasses that you look at the world through. And that filter question has to be answered. It's unique to each communication language. And that set of lenses, that filter through which the language filters not just incoming communication, but also outgoing communication. It's vital that filter question be answered. Otherwise, that language is not going to flourish in the communication sequence. And so we need that question to be answered so that we can communicate effectively. For example, the doer language is filtering all interaction, all communication through the filter question of, are you doing your share? Because this is a language that's wired to do my share and to see what needs to be done. And if what needs to be done is not being done, then that's going to put that language into distress. And if the answer appears to be no, that's really going to influence the effectiveness of our communication. So if I'm speaking the doer language and you're not doing your share, we're going to have a challenge we're going to need to face together. On the other hand, if you're speaking the doer language and I am doing my share, I'm going to be able to effectively communicate with you in other languages as well, because I've answered your filter question for your primary language that you're speaking right now. So that's the first foundation, the filter question. And it's important that you know which language you're in any interaction to know what that filter question is. The second foundation for effective communication or mastery in communication would be the need from others, because obviously communication is a two-way street. And whenever I'm communicating with somebody else, that person I'm communicating with has a need from me that will enable the communication to be a good connection and an effective interchange. We don't like to admit that we have needs, do we? But because communication takes place in relationship, there's always a place for needs to be expressed and needs to be met. And if you think about your most valuable relationships, those are the ones where you can express your needs fully, but also where you can easily meet others' needs in a fruitful and rewarding way. So knowing what you need from me as we're interacting is really going to be key, because then I'm likely to be successful in meeting that need. But if I don't know what you need from me, then I'm going to be 100% unsuccessful in meeting that need, aren't I? And then our communication is going to be hindered. In fact, that's going to make your communication style go into distress again, because it's not getting the oxygen that it needs to flourish. And so let me give you another example. The responder language needs to be heard and understood. And sometimes that takes a little longer than some of the other languages are willing to give. So it's important to develop the willingness to accept a person who's speaking the responder language and to understand they need to be heard and understood so you don't misunderstand their heart. And most of us can appreciate and identify with how valuable that is in keeping distress out of communication. If I feel understood by you, if I feel heard by you, I'm much more likely to communicate effectively and freely with you. The third area that forms these 4 foundational blocks would be the driving passion of each communication style. Because every one of us has something that gets us up in the morning, keeps us going through the day, the last thing you think about at night before you lay down to sleep. Each communication style is wired for a specific passion. And all 7 of these passions have a place in our businesses and in our other interactions in our home life and in the community. And each business is going to flourish if we make room for all 7 of these passions. But do you know how your team is wired and who brings which passions to the table most easily? Every one of us has all 7. But for example, the Shaper language has a passion to lead. And that passion is expressed with a global strategic focus. The Shaper language can see where we need to get to and figure out all the steps of the plan to get us from where we are to where we need to be. Very valuable passion in any business, of course. The other 6 also have their place. I don't have time to go into them now. But just think back to the Shaper for a moment. If that passion to think strategically and to work out the steps of a plan isn't welcome, or for some reason we're preventing it from being expressed, then that language is going to go into distress and is going to find it very challenging to communicate effectively. The person may not realize why it is that they're in distress, but they recognize that they are in distress. I know sometimes in coaching, I'm helping my clients to find ways to express their passion. It may be that in their job, they're not able to express that Shaper passion to lead. Maybe their job is fairly mundane or fairly routine, and there isn't a lot of strategy needed. But in their rest of their lives, they can find ways to express that same passion. And so they find that the job is not the problem, it's that they weren't able to fully express the passion of one of their primary communication styles at all. And so when we make room for that passion or find an outlet for it, then they begin to thrive, even though the job itself doesn't change. So that's the first 3. The 4th one may be even the most important of the 4 we've talked about today, and that is the key character strength that each communication style brings to your team in the business or in your organization, but also to each person who has all 7 of these languages. All 7 of these character strengths would be part of a well-rounded professional person, but whatever your personal communication style, there's going to be a character strength that's likely been a part of your wiring from very early on in your life. It may have even been there since childhood. And when that character strength is recognized or acknowledged, you find yourself kind of straightening up a little, or maybe smiling or shining a little more brightly. Because something key to your personality, something key to your wiring has been acknowledged and has been seen, has been recognized. And if your character strength is valued, then you will flourish in whatever team you're in or in whatever interaction that you're communicating in the moment. So, for example, that would be true when the mover language is recognized for courage. Or maybe the contemplator language is recognized for loyalty, and that loyalty is valued in the team or in the setting. So that key character strength is something that's so deeply wired within us that we don't often notice it in the moment, but we certainly recognize if it's not being made room for, if it's not being acknowledged. And that can lead to distress as well. So those 4 foundations, if we take account of each one of them, the filter question, the need from others, the driving passion, and the key character strength, we make room for those for each of the 7 languages, then that's going to be a massive step forward in your communication mastery, because you can then adapt to whoever you're facing or whoever you're interacting with in a way that brings out of them the very best of how they're wired, the very greatest of their potential. It may be that you haven't taken your Life Languages profile yet. And if you haven't, I'd encourage you to do so, because until you do, you don't know which of these is primary for you, or what of these stand out more fully in your profile. The insights that you get from the Life Language profile give you a self-awareness that you can't get anywhere else. That's why I value it so highly. And you can go to my website, markburlinson.com/discover, and you can choose one of the 2 profile options from there to take your profile today. And when you've downloaded your profile report, then you could contact me for a coaching package. We can unpack your profile and see the results and apply them to your specific circumstances. I love the fact that I've had so many clients now who've said, hey, that particular insight has been so valuable to me in my daily work life or in my home life or in my role in the community. I've given them permission to be themselves in a fuller way because they've had understanding of the way their communication is wired. So that's markburlinson.com/discover to take your profile. Now, let me say this, it's not a test. There's no right answers. In fact, the only right answer is the answer that's true for you most of the time. And so if you let me know what you think of your results and let me help you get the greatest value from them, you'll find that's a very powerful tool for communication mastery. So remember those 4 foundational keys, the filter question, the need from others, the driving passion, and the key character strength of each of the 7 languages in your communication profile. Let's use all of them so that our communication can be effective day by day, week by week, and we'll see the fruit in every area of our lives. Now, before you go to my website and take your profile, why not think of someone else who you would benefit, maybe somebody close to you. They would benefit from their own understanding of these 4 foundations, or maybe you would benefit from being able to have a conversation with them of how are you wired differently from me? How do our communication styles differ and how do they interface effectively? Either way, maybe text them a link to this episode or send them the link to markburlinson.com/discover and have them take their profile too. You could learn from each other's answers. And turn those differences into strengths. As we work on it together, I can help you do that. So let me know any questions you have. We'll deal with them in future episodes. And in the meantime, tell somebody else to come with you to my website. Let's take our profiles, learn more about ourselves and more about each other. I'll see you next week.